No one told us that freedom would have the bitter taste of goodbye. For years, Flavia and I lived in the shadows, speaking the language of silence, where a simple touch of hands in public could cost us our freedom or our lives. Our city, with its rigid rules and severe judgments, became a cage, safe only for those who pretend to be what they are not. Today, as the car pulls away from the familiar lights of the neighborhood where we grew up, we aren't just fleeing a country that rejects us. We are fleeing to save what is left of us. Flavia squeezes my hand, hidden under my coat, and her eyes meet mine in the rearview mirror. There, I see the promise of a future where we won't need to whisper, "I love you" anymore. This is the story of how we traded the certainty of a home for the uncertainty of a new world. All so that our love would stop being a crime and finally become just love. The rain wasn't just falling, it was collapsing out of the sky, as if the heavens were trying to wash the city off the map. Or perhaps, wash us back into the cages we had just broken out of. The windshield wipers of our battered sedan fought the deluge in a hypnotic, desperate rhythm, swish thump, marking the tempo of our final minutes as citizens of this place. I sat in the passenger seat, knees pulled tight against my chest, hugging my backpack as if it contained my vital organs rather than just 3 changes of clothes, a notebook filled with scribbled fears, and a ridiculous amount of cash we had scraped together by selling everything that wasn't nailed down. I glanced sideways. Flavia drove with a determination that I both envied and feared. Her fingers gripped the steering wheel so tightly that her knuckles were stark white, drained of blood. The faint green glow of the dashboard illuminated her profile, the aquiline nose I loved to kiss, the firm line of her jaw now locked in tension. She didn't blink. She didn't look at me. She knew that if she looked, if she saw the terror swimming in my eyes, she might hesitate. And tonight, hesitation was a synonym for death. Not a physical death, perhaps, but the death of who we were. If we stayed, they would carve us up until we were strangers to one another. My phone buzzed in my lap, an insistent hum that felt like a muffled scream against my thigh. The screen lit up, flooding the dark interior of the car with a cold, accusatory light. It was a message from my mother. "Where are you? Dinner is on the table. Your father wants to talk about that matter." That matter. That was what they called our love. A matter. A problem. A shame they never used Flavia's name. To them, she was that friendship, the bad influence, or on the worst days, the perversion. I felt a knot tighten in my throat, a metallic taste of guilt mixed with bile. I was 20 years old, yet in that moment, I felt like a child running away after breaking a violently expensive vase. Only, the vase was my family's reputation in the parish, and the glue I was using to fix my life was distance. "Camila." Flavia's voice sliced through the silence, raspy and low. She didn't take her eyes off the slick black road. "We're coming up on the bridge. You know what you have to do." I knew. The old iron bridge over the River of Souls marked the municipal limit. Beyond it lay the state highway. Beyond that, the unknown. And to enter the unknown, we had to cut the umbilical cord. I picked up the phone. It buzzed again. "Camila, pick up, we are worried." The lie hurt more than the anger. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about what the neighbors would whisper if I didn't show up for Sunday Mass. They were worried about the stain on their pristine tablecloth. "I don't know if I can," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Flavia, what if they call the police? What if they say we were kidnapped?" Flavia slowed the car slightly, just enough for the sound of the rain drumming on the roof to become deafening. She reached out her right hand, blindly, and found mine in the dark. Her hand was ice cold, but the touch was like an electric shock that yanked me back to reality, back to our secret room, back to the whispered promises under the sheets while the world outside condemned us to hell. "They will try to find us. Cammy, they will use guilt, fear, religion. They will use the police if they have to. That is exactly why we cannot leave a trace." She squeezed my hand, hard. "Do you remember what they did last week? Do you remember the rock through your window? Do you remember what they shouted at us in the plaza?" The memory hit me like a physical punch. The sound of glass shattering at 3 a.m. The note tied to the stone with twisted Bible verses and threats of correction. The fear of walking down the street. The fear of sleeping. The realization that our town wasn't a home, but a waiting room for a tragedy. I took a deep breath, swallowing the sob that was climbing up my throat. I looked at the phone one last time. The lock screen photo was my little sister, 5 years old, smiling with a missing front tooth. "I'm sorry, little one. I thought, one day I'll come back for you. Or I'll explain why I left." I rolled down the window. The freezing wind and icy rain invaded the car, whipping my face and soaking the upholstery instantly. The roar of the river below was loud, violent, swollen with the storm. "Now," Flavia said, without allowing myself to think. I hurled the device into the darkness. Seconds later, Flavia did the same with hers. I watched the two glowing rectangles spin in the black air before being swallowed by the abyss of the night and the muddy water below. I rolled the window up. The silence returned. But now it was different. It was heavy. Final. There was no turning back. No GPS to tell us where to go. No familiar voices to tell us who to be. We were ghosts in the system. Flavia accelerated. The car jolted as we hit the expansion joints of the bridge. Thump thump, thump thump. It sounded like the beating of a giant heart. We left the city lights behind. In the rear view mirror, I watched the orange glow of the street lamps shrink until it was nothing but a distant, watery blur. The city that had been my cradle and my cage was fading into the past. I looked at Flavia. A solitary tear traced a path down her cheek, catching the light of an oncoming truck's high beams. "Are you scared?" I asked. "I'm terrified," she confessed, her voice trembling for the first time. "But I'd rather live in terror out there than die slowly in here." She released the steering wheel for a split second, just to brush her knuckles against my cheek. "We're going to make it, Cammy. We have 24 hours to cross the border. After that, we make it up as we go." The car tore through the darkness, merging onto the state highway. The rain continued, but now it seemed less like a barrier and more like a curtain hiding us from the wolves. I closed my eyes and tried to visualize the map in my head, the towns we would pass, the dangers of being two women alone on the road at midnight. But for a brief moment, the only thing that mattered was the heat of her hand on my leg and the terrifying certainty that, for the first time in our lives, we were absolutely, irrevocably free. 3 hours. That was how long the silence had lasted, interrupted only by the rhythmic thump of the tires on the asphalt and the occasional hiss of a passing The adrenaline that had fueled our dramatic exit at the bridge was beginning to metabolize into a cold, hard knot in the pit of my stomach. The euphoria of rebellion was gone, replaced by the crushing reality of logistics. We were two girls in a 20-year-old car with a radiator that leaked and a future that didn't exist yet. The landscape outside had shifted from the claustrophobic concrete of the suburbs to the desolate, stretching void of the agricultural belt. In the dark, the fields looked like black oceans. There were no houses here, no lights to remind us of civilization, just the road, unwinding like a gray ribbon into the mouth of a wolf. "We need gas," Flavia said, her voice sounding too loud in the quiet cabin. She rubbed her eyes with the heel of her hand. "And coffee. If I don't drink coffee, I'm going to drive us into a ditch." I nodded, shifting in my seat. My legs were cramped. There was a sign back there. 3 kilometers. The oasis. "The oasis?" Flavia scoffed, a dry, humorless sound. "Sounds like a trap." We pulled off the highway 5 minutes later. The station was a fluorescent purgatory in the middle of nowhere, buzzing with the hum of high-voltage bug zappers. The canopy light flickered with a nervous twitch, casting long, dancing shadows across the fuel pumps. There was only one other vehicle, their massive truck parked in the shadows, its driver asleep in the cab. "Hood up," Flavia commanded, popping the latch. "I need to check the water. You go pay cash. Don't make eye contact. Don't linger." I stepped out of the car, and the night air hit me smelling of diesel, wet earth, and cow manure. I pulled my hood up, shrinking inside my oversized jacket. Walking toward the convenience store felt like walking onto a stage where everyone knew I didn't belong. The automatic door slid open with a groan. Inside, the air was stale and smelled of burnt hot dogs. The cashier was a man in his 50s with grease under his fingernails and eyes that looked like they had seen too much and remembered too little. He was watching a small portable TV on the counter. A news anchor was speaking rapidly, but the volume was low. My heart hammered against my ribs. Are we on there? Is my father's face on the screen? Pleading for his abducted daughter? I grabbed 2 bottles of water, a bag of chips, and 2 large coffees that looked more like sludge than liquid. I placed them on the counter, keeping my head down. Gas on pump 4, I muttered, sliding a bill across the scratched laminate. The man didn't take the money immediately. He looked at the bill, then at my hand, then up at my face. I felt exposed, like a deer caught in crosshairs. "You ain't from around here," he said. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. "Just passing through," I managed to say, my voice thin. "Heading north." He tapped the counter. "Weather's bad, up north. Roads are washed out near the border. Thanks for the tip." I pushed the money closer. "Just the gas, please." He finally took the cash. I grabbed the receipt and the bag, turning to leave just as the automatic doors slid open again. 2 police officers walked in. My blood turned to ice. They were laughing, talking about a football game, their uniforms crisp and terrifying. I froze by the magazine rack, clutching the bag so hard the chips crunched. They looked right at me, or through me. One of them nodded a polite, dismissive nod given to a random girl in a hoodie. I didn't nod back. I couldn't move. "Coffee's fresh?" the taller officer asked the cashier. "Fresh enough," the man grunted. I forced my legs to move. 1 step, 2 steps. I slipped past them, holding my breath, expecting a hand to grab my shoulder, expecting to hear my name. The doors opened. The cold air hit me. I was out. I walked in. "Run. Don't run." Running looks guilty. Back to the car. Flavia was slamming the hood shut, wiping her hands on her jeans. She looked up and saw my face. "What?" she hissed, instantly alert. "What happened?" "Cops," I whispered, getting into the passenger seat. Inside, 2 of them. Flavia didn't ask questions. She didn't freeze. She jumped into the driver's seat, turned the key, and the engine roared to life with a protest. We peeled out of the station, perhaps a little too fast, merging back onto the highway with desperate urgency. For 10 minutes, neither of us spoke. Flavia checked the rearview mirror every 4 seconds. They didn't follow. She finally exhaled, her shoulders dropping an inch. "We're okay. We're ghosts, remember?" But we weren't ghosts. We were flesh and blood, and the car reminded us of that abruptly. A sudden, violent shudder ran through the chassis. The dashboard chimed a singular, cheerful ding that signaled disaster. An amber light shaped like an engine block blinked on. "No," Flavia groaned, hitting the steering wheel. "No, no, no, not now. Please, not now." "What is it?" I leaned forward. "The temperature gauge is spiking. I just put water in it. It must be a leak in the hose." She bit her lip. "We can't stop here, Cammy. It's too open." The car shuddered again, losing power. We were losing speed. 80 kilometers h, 60 kilometros por hora. "Flavia, I know," she snapped. It was the first time she had raised her voice at me. She took a deep breath. "Sorry, I need to find a place to pull over that isn't a death trap." We limped along for another 2 miles until we saw a dirt access road leading into a dense patch of pine forest. Flavia steered the car off the pavement. We bounced over potholes, driving deeper into the trees until the highway was just a distant hum. She killed the engine. The silence returned, but this time it was heavy with defeat. The only sound was the tick-tick-tick of the cooling metal engine and the rain beginning to fall again. Flavia let her head fall back against the headrest. In the pale light, she looked exhausted, stripped of her bravado. She looked like what she was, a 21-year-old girl who had taken on the world and was losing. "I can fix it," she whispered, but it sounded like a question. "I have tape. I can patch the hose, but we have to wait for the engine to cool down. We're stuck here for at least an hour." An hour. I looked out at the pitch-black forest. "Flavia, if we don't make the border by dawn." "I know." She turned to me, tears welling in her eyes. "I know. Okay. I messed up. I should have checked the car better. I should have had more money. I'm dragging you into this mess and I don't know if I can get us out." See, Flavia was always the strong one, the protector, the one who held my hand when I cried because my mother found a letter I wrote. Seeing her crumble was more terrifying than the police officers. I unbuckled my seatbelt and leaned over the center console. I took her face in my hands, forcing her to look at me. "Hey," I said, my voice steady, surprising even myself. "Look at me. You aren't dragging me anywhere. I chose this. I chose you. But we're stuck in the woods. The car is broken. We have no phones." "We have each other," I said, wiping a tear from her cheek with my thumb. "And we have duct tape. That's a start." I leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't a kiss of passion. It was a kiss of recalibration. It tasted of stale coffee and fear. But beneath that, it tasted of home. For a moment, the forest wasn't a threat. It was a shelter. "We wait for it to cool," I said, pulling back. "Then we fix it. Then we drive. We don't stop until we see the flag of the other side." "Okay." Flavia took a shaky breath, nodding. "Okay." She reached into the back seat and grabbed the flashlight. "I'm going to check the trunk for the toolkit. Stay inside." She opened the door and stepped out into the rain. I watched her beam of light cut through the darkness, dancing among the pine trees. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to hold on to the bravery I had just feigned. Then, I saw it in the side mirror, illuminated by the red glow of our taillights. Another pair of headlights appeared at the entrance of the dirt road. They weren't passing by. They slowed down. And then, crunching over the gravel, they turned in toward us. The headlights didn't just illuminate the forest. They violated it. The beams cut through the rain like solid bars of white heat, pinning Flavia against the open trunk of our sedan. She froze. A deer caught in the sudden, artificial dawn. I scrambled inside the car, my hands fumbling to lock the doors. A reflex born of urban paranoia. That felt ridiculous out here in the wild. Click, click, click. The approaching vehicle slowed to a crawl, tires crunching heavily on the wet gravel. It wasn't a police cruiser. It was an ancient pickup truck, rusted and rattling, with a roll bar and floodlights mounted on top. It stopped 10 meters away, idling with a throaty, uneven rumble that vibrated in my chest. "Flavia!" I screamed through the glass, banging on the window. "Get in!" She didn't move. She couldn't. The truck blocked our exit back to the road, and the dense tree line blocked everything else. She stood her ground, holding a tire iron she had pulled from the toolkit. Her posture was defensive, legs apart. But I could see the tremor in her hands from here. The driver's door of the truck groaned open. A pair of heavy work boots hit the mud. Then came the rest of him, a mountain of a man in a yellow rain slicker, his face hidden by the shadow of a wide-brimmed hat. He didn't hurry. He walked with the slow, deliberate pace of someone who owns the land and everything standing on it. I unlocked my door and spilled out into the rain, ignoring the cold that instantly soaked my sweatshirt. I wouldn't let her face him alone. I ran to her side, grabbing her arm. "We have to go," I whispered, my teeth chattering. "Get in the car." "Engine's dead, Cammy," she hissed back, eyes fixed on the stranger. "We're not going anywhere." The man stopped a few feet from us. He held a heavy flashlight, but he didn't shine it in our faces. He kept it pointed at the ground, illuminating the puddle of green coolant mixing with the mud near our front tire. "Radiator hose." His voice was like gravel in a cement mixer, up, deep, and impossible to read. Flavia tightened her grip on the tire iron. "We're fine. Help is on the way." The man tilted his head, looking at the desolate road behind him, then back at us. "Ain't no signal out here, miss, and help is about 50 kilometers back that way." He gestured with his chin toward the highway. He took a step closer, and the light caught his face. He was older, skin weathered like leather left in the sun, with eyes that were pale blue and entirely devoid of warmth. They weren't cruel eyes, necessarily, but they were calculating. He looked from Flavia to me, then to the packed car, then back to the coolant on the ground. "You two look like you're in a hurry," he observed. "We're visiting family," I lied, the words tumbling out too fast. "Our ... aunt, up north." The man scoffed, a short puff of breath in the cold air. "Visiting family at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, taking the back service roads, with a car packed like you're never coming back." The silence that followed was heavier than the storm. He knew. He didn't know who we were, specifically, but he knew what we were. Runaways. Fugitives. Girl's in trouble. Look, Flavia stepped forward, shielding me slightly with her body. If you're going to rob us, just do it. We don't have much. The man chuckled. A low, dry sound. He reached into his pocket. Flavia flinched, raising the iron. I stopped breathing. He pulled out a roll of black industrial tape and a jug of water. Put that iron down before you hurt yourself. Girl, he said, tossing the tape to Flavia. She caught it against her chest, stunned. Patch the hose. Wait 10 minutes. Fill it with this. He set the jug on the hood of our car. We stared at him, paralyzed by the sudden shift. Why? I asked. He looked at me, and for a second, the coldness in his eyes softened into something resembling pity. My daughter left 5 years ago, same look in her eyes, same desperate driving. He turned back to his truck. She never came back. He opened his door, 1 foot on the running board, then paused. The state troopers have a checkpoint set up at the crossing near San Telmo, he said, not looking at us. They're looking for drugs. Mostly, but if you don't have papers, or if someone called in your plates, ... you won't get through. San Telmo is the only way north, Flavia said, her voice trembling. It's the only paved way, the man corrected. Take the logging road, 3 miles up, east. It's dirt. It's dangerous. And if you slide off, nobody will find you until spring. But there are no cops. He climbed in. The truck roared, spewing exhaust. Tape it tight, he yelled over the engine. And good luck. He backed out, swinging the heavy vehicle around. The headlights swept over us one last time, and then he was gone, leaving us in a darkness that felt even deeper than before. Flavia looked at the tape in her hands, then at me. Her legs finally gave out, and she slumped against the grill of the car, letting out a ragged sob. I knelt beside her in the mud. The rain was freezing, but I was burning up with adrenaline. He could have killed us, she whispered. He could have done anything. But he didn't, I said, grabbing the tape. He gave us a map. We worked in frantic silence. Flavia found the rupture in the rubber hose, a jagged tear spewing steam. We wrapped it with the industrial tape, layer after layer, until it looked like a black tumor on the engine. We poured the water in. The car started on the second try. Coughing smoke but holding a steady idle. We got back on the highway, but the dynamic had shifted. The map had changed. San Telmo was a trap. The man's warning echoed in my ears. It's dirt. It's dangerous. Do you trust him? I asked Flavia as we drove. The heater was finally working, blowing lukewarm air onto our frozen hands. Do we have a choice? She replied. She looked at the odometer. 3 miles to the logging road. If we take it, we add 4 hours to the trip. We lose daylight. We might get stuck again. If we go through San Telmo and they run the plates. I didn't finish the sentence. We both knew. My father had friends in the local precinct. By now, an APB could be out. Missing persons, mentally unstable, return to parents. Flavia signaled right. We turned off the smooth asphalt onto a track that was barely a road, just 2 ruts of mud cutting into a wall of pine trees. The car bounced violently. Hold on, Flavia murmured, gripping the wheel. This is going to be rough. The forest swallowed us whole. The trees were taller here, leaning over the road like Gothic arches, blocking out the rain but trapping the darkness. The headlights barely cut through the gloom. We were crawling at 20 kilometers per hour. Suddenly, Flavia slammed on the brakes. I was thrown forward against the seatbelt. What? I gasped. Look, she pointed. Ahead of us, blocked by a fallen tree, the road simply ended. But it wasn't just a dead end. Nailed to the trunk of the fallen pine was a sign, hand-painted in red, dripping in the rain. It wasn't a warning. It was a message. Go back. And beneath it, sitting on the log, soaking wet and looking directly into our headlights, was a dog. A massive, black Rottweiler, sitting perfectly still. It didn't bark. It just watched. This isn't the logging road, Flavia whispered, fear creeping back into her voice. I think he sent us the wrong way. My blood ran cold. The Samaritan with the cold eyes. Had he helped us, or had he hurted us? I reached for the reverse gear, but the tires spun in the mud. We weren't moving. The dog stood up. The car died not with a bang, but with a wet, gurgling sigh. The patch on the radiator hose blew again, sending a plume of white steam hissing into the rain-soaked beams of the headlights. The engine seized. The dashboard lights flickered and died, plunging us into absolute darkness. For a heartbeat, there was nothing but the sound of the storm pummeling the roof. Then, the dog barked. A deep chest-rattling sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Flavia," I whispered, reaching for the door handle. "We have to move." "I killed it," she murmured, staring blankly at the dead steering wheel. Her hands were shaking so violently she couldn't unclench them. "I killed the car. It's over." "No," I snapped, the fear in my gut calcifying into a hard, cold survival instinct. I looked in the side mirror. The entrance to the mud track, about 100 meters back, was lighting up. Two beams of light swung around the bend. The truck, the Samaritan. He hadn't sent us down a shortcut. He had sent us into a cul-de-sac, and now he was coming to close the trap. "Flavia." I grabbed her shoulder and shook her hard. "He's coming. Grab the backpack. Now." The urgency in my voice broke her trance. She fumbled for the latch. We tumbled out of the car into the knee-deep mud. The cold was a physical assault, stealing the breath from my lungs instantly. The rain was freezing, turning the ground into a slurry that sucked at our boots. "The woods," Flavia gasped, grabbing my hand. "Away from the lights." We didn't run, we couldn't. We clawed our way up the embankment, slipping on wet pine needles and rotting leaves, dragging ourselves into the dense black wall of the forest. Branches whipped our faces, invisible in the dark, leaving stinging welts. We scrambled over a fallen log and threw ourselves into a depression in the earth, behind a thicket of ferns. "Quiet," I breathed, pressing my face into the wet moss. Flavia was hyperventilating beside me. I pulled her head down onto my shoulder, covering her mouth with my hand. Below us, on the track, the rattling roar of the pickup truck grew louder. It slowed down, stopping just behind our abandoned sedan. The floodlights mounted on the roll bar bathed the scene in harsh, surgical white light. Through the ferns, I watched. The driver's door opened. The man in the yellow slicker stepped out. He didn't look like a concerned citizen anymore. He looked like a hunter checking a snare. He walked to our car, the Rottweiler trotting obediently at his heel. He shone his flashlight into the empty cabin. He didn't call out. He didn't yell, "Is anyone there? Or do you need help?" He simply walked to the trunk of our car, popped the lock with a crowbar he pulled from his belt, and began rummaging through the few possessions we had left behind. He pulled out Flavia's guitar case. Flavia stiffened beside me. I held her tighter. "Let him take it," I prayed. "Take it all. Just don't look up." The man threw the guitar case into the bed of his truck. Then he stood still, tilting his head back, listening to the rain. He scanned the tree line with his flashlight. The beam swept over our hiding spot. I squeezed my eyes shut, terrified that the reflection in my pupils would give us away. The light lingered for a second, then moved on. He whistled. The dog jumped into the truck. He climbed back in, killed the floodlights, and began to back up. He wasn't looking for us. He knew we were in the woods. He knew the woods were worse than he was. He was just scavenging the wreckage, as the truck's taillights disappeared back toward the main road, leaving us in total darkness. Flavia let out a ragged sob. "My guitar," she whispered. "My grandfather gave me that." "We're alive," I said, my voice trembling. "We're alive, Flavia." "We're lost," she countered, pulling away from me. "We're in the middle of a forest, in a storm, with no food, no shelter, and no idea where north is." "We know where the wind is coming from," I said, standing up on shaky legs. My clothes were heavy with water, dragging me down. "The wind brings the storm from the coast. The coast is north. We walk against the wind." "You don't know that," she argued, but she stood up too. "Do you have a better plan?" I asked, harsher than I intended, because going back to the road is suicide. We began to walk. It wasn't a hike. It was a slow, torture struggle against nature. The forest was an obstacle course of slick rocks, hidden roots and thorny underbrush that tore at our jeans. We held hands, not out of romance, but to keep from losing each other in the abyss. Time lost its meaning. It could have been an hour, or 5. The cold began to seep into my bones, a numbing ache that made my fingers clumsy and my thoughts slow. Hypothermia, a distant part of my brain warned. Keep moving. I can't. Flavia slurred. Stumbling, she fell to her knees in the mud. Cammy, I can't feel my feet. I knelt beside her. Get up, please. Leave me, she muttered, delirium edging into her voice. Just go. You can make it. Shut up. I grabbed her under the arms, hauling her up with a strength I didn't know I possessed. We left together. We arrived together. Or we die together. Those are the options. Pick one. She looked at me, her eyes barely focusing in the gloom. You're so bossy, she whispered, a weak smile touching her lips. And your heavy move. We stumbled on. The terrain began to change. The trees thinned out. The ground became rockier, steeper. We were climbing. The rain began to ease, turning into a fine, freezing mist. And then, the darkness broke. It wasn't a sunrise, not yet. It was a graying of the sky, a dilution of the black ink. We crested a ridge, gasping for air, our lungs burning. I stopped dead. Flavia bumped into me. Look, I pointed. Below us, the forest opened up into a vast, mist-covered valley, and cutting through the middle of the valley, perhaps 3 kilometers away, was a scar on the earth, a long, straight line of high-intensity lights, barbed wire, and concrete. The border, it looked terrifying. It looked impossible. It looked like a fortress. But just beyond it, the lights of a town twinkled warm, yellow, inviting, the promised land. It's right there, Flavia breathed. It's so close. But look, I pointed to the expanse between us and the fence. The valley wasn't empty. It was a floodplain. The storm had turned the river into a lake. The water was rising, swirling brown and angry, cutting off the path to the fence. And patrolling the service road along the wire, we could see the slow, rhythmic sweep of searchlights from armored jeeps. We were out of the woods, but we were trapped between the flood and the fence. We have to swim, Flavia said, panic rising again, before the water gets higher. If we swim, the current takes us, I assessed, scanning the landscape. We need a boat, or a bridge, or a miracle. Then I saw it. About half a kilometer down the ridge, nestled in a cluster of rocks, was an old hunting blind, a small wooden structure on stilts, and tied to one of the stilts, bobbing in the rising water, was something that looked like a small, flat-bottomed skiff. There, I said, one last push. But as we took the first step down the slippery slope toward the water, the sky finally cracked open with dawn. A siren wailed in the distance. Not a police siren, a flood siren. The dam aperture had opened the gates. The water wasn't just rising, it was coming for us. The roar of the water was the sound of the earth tearing itself apart. The floodgate release aperture had turned the valley floor into a churning brown rapid, widening by the second, swallowing trees and rocks whole. We slid down the muddy embankment, tearing our fingernails on roots, tumbling more than running toward the hunting blind. The rope! I screamed over the noise of the deluge. The small aluminum skiff was dancing violently on the surface of the rising water. Tethered to a rotting wooden stilt by a frayed yellow nylon rope, Flavia reached it first. She didn't bother with knots. She pulled a pocket knife from her jeans, trembling, fumbling, and slashed at the cord. Get in, she yelled. I threw our single backpack into the metal hull and practically fell in after it. The boat rocked dangerously, taking on icy water. Flavia jumped in, the momentum nearly tipping us over. The rope snapped. We were loose. The current didn't carry us. It threw us. We spun in circles, the world dissolving into a dizzying blur of gray sky, brown water, and the blinding, sterile white of the border searchlights. We had no oars. We had a piece of driftwood Flavia had grabbed, and my own hands paddling frantically in the freezing muck. Aim for the culvert, I pointed. The border fence loomed ahead, a 20-foot wall of steel mesh and razor wire slicing through the water. But nature didn't respect borders. The debris from the storm had piled up against the fence, creating a dam. The water was forcing its way under the mesh, eroding the bank into a swirling vortex. We're going to hit it, Flavia screamed. A searchlight swept across the water, missing us by inches. A siren blared from a watchtower short. Sharp bursts. They had seen the debris. They hadn't seen us yet. We have to jump, I said, grabbing her arm. The boat won't fit under Cammy. I can't swim in this. You don't have to swim, you have to sink. Let the current take you under the fence. Kick when you feel the bottom. We looked at each other. In that fraction of a second, I saw the girl I had fallen in love with in a library. The girl who wrote songs about birds. The girl who was too soft for this hard world. And I saw her change. Her jaw set. The fear didn't leave her eyes, but it stopped paralyzing her. I love you, she shouted. Tell me on the other side. We rolled off the aluminum shell just as it slammed against the steel fence with a deafening clang. The water was a sledgehammer. It drove me down into the dark silt-filled cold. I squeezed my eyes shut, holding my breath until my lungs burned. I felt the wire mesh scrape against the back of my jacket, snagging, tearing, then letting go. I kicked against the mud, fighting the downward pull. My hand flailed, searching for Flavia. Nothing but water. Panic, bright and hot, exploded in my chest. I kicked harder. Clawing upward, my head broke the surface. I gasped, inhaling water and air, coughing violently. I was spinning. The current was slower here, spreading out into a wider basin. I wiped the mud from my eyes. Flavia, I screamed, my voice raw. The river answered with silence. The boat was pinned against the fence behind me, crumpled like a soda can. Flavia, then, a cough. 10 meters downstream, a head of dark, matted hair emerged from the gray chop. She was flailing, struggling to keep her head up. I swam toward her, fighting the weight of my soaked clothes. I grabbed her collar, then her arm. She was dead weight, exhausted, her lips blue. I got you, I choked out. Kick, Flavia, just a little more. We dragged ourselves onto the riverbank. It was mud, just mud. It looked exactly like the mud on the other side. But as we lay there, heaving, vomiting river water, I looked up. The fence was behind us. The searchlights were sweeping the water behind us. We lay there for 10 minutes, unable to move, the rain washing the silt from our faces. We were freezing, hypothermic, and battered. But we were here. Did we make it? Flavia whispered, her teeth chattering so hard the words were barely intelligible. I looked at the ground. A discarded wrapper of a candy bar lay in the grass. The brand was foreign. The language on the wrapper was different. Yes, I sobbed, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes. Epilogue. The coffee shop at the end of the world 2 hours later. The diner was a chromated neon relic on the edge of a sleeping town. The sign buzzed, open 24 hours. We walked in looking like swamp creatures, muddy, shivering, smelling of river water and fear. The waitress, a woman with hair the color of straw and a name tag that said Rosa, didn't recoil. She looked at us, at our clasped hands, at our bruises, at the haunting hollowness in our eyes. She had seen this look before. This was a border town. We weren't the first ghosts to walk through that door. She pointed to a booth in the back, near the radiator. Sit, she said gently. I'll bring towels. We sat. The vinyl seat squeaked. The warmth of the radiator hit me like a drug, making my head spin. I put our backpack on the table. The notebook was soaked. The clothes were ruined. We had nothing. Rosa returned with 2 clean white towels and 2 mugs of black coffee. Steam rose from the cups, smelling of heaven. She placed a plate of toast in the middle of the table. On the house, she murmured, and walked away. Flavia wrapped the towel around her shoulders. She picked up the mug with both hands, letting the heat seep into her frozen palms. She took a sip, closed her eyes, and let out a long, shuddering breath. It's real, she said softly. The coffee, the quiet. She opened her eyes. They were red-rimmed but clear. Nobody is looking for us here. Nobody cares who we are. I reached across the table and took her hand. Her skin was starting to warm up. We have to call your aunt, I said, if we can find a phone, if she still lives in the capital. Tomorrow, Flavia said firmly. Tomorrow, we figure out money. Tomorrow we figure out visas. Tomorrow we call. She looked out the window. The sun was cresting over the distant mountains that were now our mountains. The storm had broken. The sky was a bruised purple, healing into gold. What about today? I asked. Flavia looked at me. For the first time in days, Weeks, maybe years. The shadow behind her eyes was gone. She wasn't looking over her shoulder. She was looking at me. "Today," she said, bringing my knuckles to her lips, "we sleep without dreaming of running." I squeezed her hand. We were battered, broke, and homeless in a foreign land. But as the first ray of sunlight hit the dirty window of the diner, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, I knew the truth. We hadn't just crossed a border. We had crossed a lifetime. "Okay," I whispered, "no more running." I took a sip of the coffee. It was burnt, bitter, and the best thing I had ever tasted.